Okay, so what we're doing now is actually cleaning the gun through, and what you want to make sure you do before you open the pot is actually squeeze the trigger all the way back to let any air out of the pot. If you open this when it's full of pressure, it can burst out like almost like a can of Coke, and it sort of leak all over the sides, or it could just explode in your face. It's something you just want to just make sure you're doing. I mean, for it to explode in your face, I'd say it'd be quite unlikely, but it can happen. Just pull your pipe off, and there's no reason I've done that really. It's just to get out of the way, and then just unscrew your cap there. They can be quite tight sometimes because you've obviously had it on there, and the paint, if you don't keep it clean, the paint can dry the edges, so keep your seals nice and clean. You see I popped the lid on my liner then, I've just taken the pot out, I'll put it out to one side, and what I actually do is let that dry overnight, and in the morning I'll just chuck it in the bin. These cups, so that's what they're designed to do, is disposable. Makes it a lot easier on cleaning up. So now actually all we've got to do is clean out the gun section. All this is cellulose thinners, and it's just gun wash, and all I'm going to do is pull my trigger back, and I'm going to open my fluid up on the back section of the gun, and then that's going to allow that thinners to drop through. And I'm just going to keep adding the thinners now, and then cleaning with a brush as I do so. So once I've cleaned everything through with the thinners, and I just cleaned, if you notice, I'm just pushing that brush right down to the bottom there, and just adding more and more thinners as I go. What I'm going to be doing is just keep cleaning the ends up before I take it apart, and just get most of the paint off I can see on the front of the gun there. And what you want to be looking for is really is as you put your next load of thinners in, that it's coming through clear. I would say always do this first, so you can see that's clear coming through now. I would say always do this first before you take the gun apart. It just gives a bit more of a fighting chance. So what I'm doing here is just taking the collar and the air cap off. Now I'm taking out the fluid nozzle section, and I'm just going to put all these bits to one side as I go. That is a size 14 spanner I'm using on that. You do get a spanner with the set when you buy the HVLP, so it's pretty easy to use because it's all made for these parts. So what I'm going to do is just loosen it with a spanner, and then obviously just take it off by hand, and then I'll just put that to one side ready for cleaning. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is taking off the air diffuser, and you'll see just underneath the air diffuser is a rubber seal. This is very important not to lose this, because it's what seals the gun and keeps the air from leaking out. It's very important to make sure you put that back together. So just underneath the air diffuser is the air divider. This is what's going to control your fan width, as well as you're turning your fan up and down. It's going to pop that out again, put them on the side. And the next thing you want to be doing here is just unscrewing the back of the gun. So where you adjusted the paint, and you're going to just pop this all the way off, and that is going to expose your spray needle. So all I'm going to do now is squeeze the trigger in, and then pull that needle out the back of the gun, and then put the gun to one side, and and then just start cleaning now all through my parts. So all I'm going to do is just start dropping a bit of thinners on, and just using a rag just to clean through. And just want to make sure that everything is really clean when you do this. The last thing you want to be doing is coming in Monday morning and the gun's completely jammed with paint. This thing earns you money, so really do look after your parts, and the gun and all the working components. And I would also say with the spray parts, it's always worth having a couple of spares in the van. Of all the bits, because if something goes wrong, like a seal, or you lose something, then you can just crack on again by just using a new part. Or sometimes the rubber seal might snap, or you might lose a part. So it's, like I said, it's always handy having those parts in the van. So you see here, I'm just dropping thinners over the top of that, and I'm just using my brushes just to clean inside all the little holes and make sure that it's all just basically as clean as it was when I first bought it. Okay, so just wiping over now the gun, just a bit more gun wash, and just giving the gun a good wipe over first. So just adding some more cleaner to the cloth, and just wiping over, getting into all the nooks and crannies. Another thing you want to remember to do is use your little brushes in between the gun handle, which you'll see me do in a minute. And this is just making sure that nothing's stuck behind the handle there, and all your springs and mechanisms that hold that trigger together are consistently working. Like I said, this paint does dry really hard, so if you leave anything in the gun or on the gun, then it's going to completely wreck the gun. So it's like I said, there we go. So in between the gun there, I'm just going to use my brush and just tuck in behind and get everything out of there, because that release pin there that's inside the gun that pulls it backwards and forwards, if that's jammed with paint, then what you'll find is sometimes that the paint can keep leaking out the gun where it's not fully closing off the valve when you let go of the gun. So it's very important to keep those parts clean. So all I'm doing here is just dropping more finish through the back of the gun there, just to make sure that I'm getting everything inside where that fluid section is. Basically just being visual about how much paint's in it. I mean, not saying it's got to be absolutely spotless, but I mean, the cleaner the better, really. Like I said, you don't want to come in Monday and it'd be absolutely covered in paint. So there we go, the gun's nice and clean. Okay, so what we're doing now is put it all back together, and it's very important to take pictures of this really as you do it. So starting with my air divider there, and then what I'm going to be doing is adding my seal to the back of the air diffuser. So as you'll see there, just sticking the seal on the back of that, and you'll find that inside the gun there'll be like a little hole that this lines up to here on the front of the gun. Okay, so once that section's on and it's not moving around too much, you want to go straight onto your fluid nozzle. And all I'm going to do really is on this bit is just do it up hand tight. And then I'm going to nick it up with the spanner. And you don't want to over tighten this bit, you just want to nick it, because if you over tighten it, you actually crack it. So basically just a little nick up there. I mean, not too loose, but also not too tight. And then what I'm going to do then is put my air cap and my collar on. So making sure that's nice and clean before I put it on there. So then screwing onto the front of my gun, the same way it come off, and again not over tight. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, what I'm going to actually do now is put the needle set in the back of the gun, and what I'm going to do is again making sure that's nice and clean. I'm just going to thread it down the back, and it's very important to put this in last. I wouldn't put it in and then tighten the actual end of the gun down to it, because what can actually happen is you can actually bend the pin. So I would say always put it in last, and don't over tighten it when you put it back on. Just leave it about halfway. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just clean my pot through, and I basically just look really going over the threads of the plastic pot that hold the liner. You want to make sure there's no paint stuck on there, because the last thing you want is when you're screwing your lid back down, it's not creating a full seal, and that means then paint and air can escape from the pot. Okay, so when I'm storing it, I don't fully tighten the pot lid back down onto the pot. I leave it slightly loose, and again, this is because if there's any paint left there, then it will be stuck and you won't open it again. I store my little pipe inside my plastic pot there. And then, yeah, that is pretty much it, to be honest, guys. The gun's nice and clean, pot's nice and clean, and happy enough to put it back now into storage, ready for another day.